to the NBA matchup report here and excited to talk about some NBA finals. 3 games into the final series, and there's a lot to talk about. But Jay, how are you doing today, man?
I am good. It's been a relatively successful hate watch as an OKC fan these past couple of games, and I'm excited because I feel confident that my hate watch will continue.
Yeah, between you and my roommate, the amount of like Knicks support and like all text messages and
It's
just
in the air. It's in the air.
stuff in my ear that I gotta hear all the time about the Knicks is it's becoming grating. But yeah, man, I'm ready, man. I got hyped up today after work on the way home. I was listening to Jeezy, always lift your spirits up. So I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm ready to sell some stuff. All right, sell some game. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we are, like I said, we are 3 games into it. It is a 2-1 series at the moment. The Knicks took the first 2 in San Antonio, and then surprisingly, the Spurs took game 1, or the first game in New York, which we were talking a lot before the series even started. We're like, if this started in New York, I would assume the Knicks will walk out of that 2-0 because that is such a tough environment to play in, and that it was actually a good thing that everything was starting in San Antonio. So, of course, San Antonio loses the first 2 at home and then wins on the road in New York for the first game in MSG, finals game in MSG since what? It was 99 since the last time they played there. So, yikes. This is why we love sports, though. It's unpredictable, and it's just forever fun to talk about, and it's a narrative-generating machine. So, let's get to them, and let's recap those first 2 games in San Antonio where the Knicks won. Where do you want to start with it? Like, what were the first major points you took out of those first couple games?
I'll kind of start it with saying I think we're pretty good at this, and I'll say that a little bit in the sense that we broke down a lot of the important matchups to keep an eye on, and I think all of these things they kind of hit in different ways. And I'll start with Josh Hart, as my little name tag says under Josh Hart rebound casualty, because he was not shooting the ball well the first 2 games of this series, but it didn't matter because the other impact that he has on the court of getting those second chance rebounds, getting all the rebounds, making those hustle plays that you're going to get from him. And he was a player that I said was going to be my difference maker for the series, and I still follow through with that. It's one way or another, he's going to provide the rebounding aspect, but then to see his outburst in Game 3 offensively, to start to see that come together, I think that is what makes the Knicks the team that I think they can be, which is this really aggressive team, but also can go down and has different ways to attack you on the offensive end. And then on the Spurs end, I think the first 2 indications to me that I didn't feel confident in the Spurs was how Wemby came out and played. And I think that to me was the difference maker in Game 3, where it's he's coming out and he's being a lot more aggressive. But speaking of aggression, this series has retroactively kind of made me hate Chet more. Because I'm seeing the way Cat is playing in those first 2 games to me, and coming out and being aggressive on Wemby, going right into his chest, and I'm like, that's all you had to do. That's what you had to do, is be aggressive, get into Wemby's chest and play physical with him. And I know Chet body wise is the same as Wemby, so it's hard for him to say go out there and big body him, but at the same time, it's this is why Karl Towns has been effective, and it's the different roles that he can play, and being able to instrument your offense, which is what we saw from the Knicks in Game 1 and Game 2, which is why they were successful. And then, of course, to cap it all off on the Knicks side of this, you still get Jalen Brunson, who is your closer in these games, where it's he's going down with back-to-back injuries in games, whether it's knee, whatever it is, and then coming back and being able to hit daggers for you in those clutch moments. It's either way, if this game, this series, as we've seen, is constantly going down to the wire, and it comes to a result in clutch moments, and it's what we kind of have come to see from this playoffs, all this playoffs as a whole, is your clutch players need to step up for you in these clutch moments, and it was Jalen Brunson for them in Game 1 and Game 2, and then it was De'Aaron Fox for the Spurs in Game 3.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that. So you're hitting all of my points. I love it. So first with the 2 games in San Antonio where the Knicks won, half of my notes on the Knicks for really Game 1, but also kind of Game 2, is just that Cat has been playing out of his mind. Leading into Game 3, I was like, Cat is the MVP of this series so far. And I know the box score stuff, I think the most he scored is 21, and he the first couple of games he was getting double doubles, but it was his playmaking that they keep evolving on and they keep adding to since the Atlanta series, where we've seen him be that playmaker for them, getting the ball up top, or even down low sometimes in the post and running things through him. making things easier, getting a flow going between him and Brunson. And then that adds to like, okay, now Mikal, once we get into a flow, you can add in what you add to it that feels natural as we go through. OG is doing his thing, hitting the corner threes, and his drives have been amazing really all series. We saw that a lot in this last game in Game 3 in New York, but it's really been all series for OG where he's been fantastic. I mean, this entire playoffs, he's been so good. But like the aggression that he's shown, even going against Wemby when he's down low, for him to be able to bump him and get these dunks off has been crazy, crazy good. But like with Cat, I mean, we were talking about before the series started, like, okay, who are the Knicks going to match up on Wemby? And we were saying like, oh, it's going to be like one of the wings. It's going to be like OG, maybe Josh Hart, like someone like that. But like, it's funny because like neither of us were like, oh, it's obviously going to be Cat. And that wasn't just us. Like that was like I'm not gonna say everybody, but like a lot of us who were like talking about the game were like, we're not going to see Cat on him because that's just not what we've seen before. That's not what the Knicks do. It's kind of like not how people play either of these centers. And then we got to see them one-on-one for the first couple of games. And it was like, holy crap, like Cat is actually kind of holding this down on offense. He was staying aggressive. The dribble drives into Wemby, being physical with him on that end and taking him to the basket. And then on the defensive end, it was like face guarding him and staying attached to him and making things difficult for him, getting him out of his place and not allowing him to get these easy lanes towards the bucket. So, I mean, Cat, like I said, the first two games especially, he was just so damn good for them. And then, yeah, the Brunson stuff, it was so funny. Like, there was a point in the game where I'm watching it with my friend. I think it was the second one where Brunson was like 7 of 21 at one point. You're just like, who cares? Like, actually, who cares? Like, because we know once you get to the fourth quarter, Brunson is just going to become nails and he's going to hit these shots. And this is exactly why he is Captain Clutch for them. And this is what he does. And he's better than Captain Chaos. So it was just really cool to see it. Like, yeah, and then he gets to these final moments in both game 1 and game 2. And he goes on his own personal run. The Knicks end like the second game on like the 11, or was that the first game? Yeah, the first game, they have an 11-0 run to end it. And a large part of that is Brunson, who was like, yeah, he may have been inefficient for most of the game. But then once you get to the point where it's like, hey, we need buckets, even if we're down 15, it feels like the Knicks are just always in it. And that's what, like, it's funny too, because my dad and my mom too, to an extent, like they don't really like watch the NBA all that much, but I've been getting texts from them kind of sporadically throughout the playoffs, but they seems like they've actually been watching the finals. And my dad will just be like, wow, like the Knicks just seem like they're never out of it. I'm like, I'm telling you, like if they're within 20 points and there's 5 minutes left, I'm still sitting there thinking like any game with the Knicks, like they could still come back and do this because we've seen them do this like all the time. And so the fact that they were able to do that against a Spurs team who is the best defense that they've played so far, and it has been super physical throughout this entire series so far, it was really impressive to watch the Knicks do that those first couple of games. And I mean the second one, like Brunson was like a little inefficient, but like still effective. Like I said, the physicality continued. Josh Hart got into early foul trouble in game 2, but that's where you saw the value of someone like Landry Shamet, who was fantastic in game 2 coming off. It's like, okay, if Josh Hart's going to get early foul trouble, we have guys who can come off the bench and contribute, like Landry Shamet, who can still play that defense for you, and he can be more consistent with your threes. But then you also have guys like Mikal Bridges, who's able to step up in the absence of, I'm not going to say the absence of Josh Hart's offense, because I don't feel like that's something they're outwardly relying on going to these games. But it is nice when Mikal Bridges, who's kind of is like your 4th, 5th option, I would say 4th, like as your starters, is able to contribute. Like, okay, like I'll step up for us right here. And then yeah, it's just like I kept telling my dad like through each game, I'm like, the Knicks they're just never out of it. They're really not, especially if it's any kind of close in the fourth quarter. And even in game 2, the Spurs made it close at the end of the game, but then it was just, you know, I mean, we're gonna talk about it. It's just Wemby made one of the worst mistakes you can make at the end of a game, where you know they're going up the court. Him and Castle kind of are looking at each other. You can see Castle is looking back, going up the sideline, and then right at the moment Castle starts to turn away and look. Wemby passes it to him, it hits him off the back, they turn it over, and that was basically the game.
While we're on the topic of this, I saw way too many people say like this was Stephon Castle's fault, and I was like, if we are taught and this is how I like, once again we talk about like the current like discourse around like the NBA right now, and it's like people like will make this like, oh, like why isn't he looking, like, and it's like you need to make eye contact with it, like who you're passing to. It is very simple. And that's why coaches will always fault you for the fancy, like, you know, no look passes, because it's like, you know, like how is it like a player on your team like actually expecting it if you're, you know, if you're not making eye contact with them. And I like it was the right decision. It was just too late because if you see Stefan Castle and he's your guard, and yes, like we know the turnover issues that he's had, especially in an OKC series, he's still your playmaker and he's the player that I think you'd want the ball in his hands in that moment there, which is why Wemby's going to make that pass. And you need to make it earlier to get up the court and try to execute that faster. But once again, I think for all the credit that like Wemby gets is this like earth, and rightfully so, this like groundbreaking player that's going to come in and change the league. He's still very young. Like me and Wemby are the same age, which is crazy to say. And like he's coming in and this is his first ever finals. We're seeing, all these learning mistakes happening, at like in real time. So it is scary to say that. And I know we keep like going back to like, oh, it's scary. It's like the fact that Wemby's still learning all this. But it is a moment where I think like that to me felt like a turning point of the series. And I know maybe it's a little too early to say, and there'll be another turning point. And you could even probably say that about Game 3. But I think like and we talked about the home court advantage aspect of this, for New York to be heading back home, winning both of the San Antonio games, I was like, shit, like this series might be over right now. Like I didn't not have a lot of confidence in San Antonio being able to go into New York and try to eat. I still don't have a lot of confidence. Even after seeing them win Game 3, I was like, you got to do it again. Like there's a lot that went wrong for the Knicks in this, and like they were still right there with you the entire game. Like it feels like the Knicks just like have a lot. Like I say have a lot going for them, obviously, but like on the other end of this, the Spurs like still feel like too young to me, and I like and you can see that I think in a lot of the inconsistencies. The one like Dylan Harper is out there like doing whatever still, like he like in a good way, like he is still being aggressive. He's hooping, and we talk about that like that Game 1. Especially like he didn't play much, but when he was on the court, he was making a positive impact, and I think
I've texted you about Dylan Harper every single game of these playoffs that he has played in, except for the ones he was injured. Like starting with Portland, I was like, "What the hell are we seeing right now?" And then now we're into the finals. I'm like, "He's still doing it." Like it's crazy. He had 9 rebounds last game.
They constantly talk about like say, "Oh, well, like he doesn't look like a rookie out there," and it's like I don't think that like that does it justice. Like he is coming out there and looking like a veteran. Like he is out there like looking confident and playing aggressive and like a veteran guard would in these type of moments. And I think besides him though, like everyone else in that young core has their inconsistencies. And I think that's like a big part of why I still don't have a lot of faith in San Antonio moving forward. Once again, I still much biased in this in my OKC sense, but at the same time, when you look at the firepower New York has and even the home court advantage aspect of this as well, like I look at this Game 4 as like, and I know it's very obvious to say it, like it's either 3-1 or 2-2 after this, but this upcoming Game 4 I think is going to be so crucial in determining the series.
I agree. And it's funny how after this game, where it's like the Knicks' first loss in a month and a half, and everyone like there's always gonna be people like, oh, should the Knicks be worried? Like, is it panic time? It's like, brother, like
I've seen like like Mikal Bridges has been here before, like he's reliving the Giannis, and even like after
that
Game
stuff
2,
is so funny though, like the nightmare of Giannis behind him over his shoulder.
To be fair though, like that was, and this is why I say like we talk about the home court advantage aspect. That was different. Like that was Phoenix getting 2 wins in Phoenix, like, and then going to Milwaukee. Like
then,
it was,
plus Giannis just went super man.
You consider what Giannis was doing, it was insane. But I do think like it's completely different because I think people are trying to make that comparison and saying like Mikal Bridges has been here before. The home court aspect of this, and then you look at the players that surrounded Giannis as well, like. And it's funny that like I look at that roster and say like it isn't too like different from like San Antonio's, but I don't think Wemby is that capable player of Giannis and being as aggressive consistently that he was, because Giannis was on a mission in that series to go out, be aggressive, be physical on both offensive end and the defensive end, and I think we really just saw the full scape of Wemby being aggressive in Game 3 early, but like there's moments where it's like. You need to keep doing it. You need to do it consistently. You need to like constantly do it. And I think that is where like I look at this and I credit Karl-Anthony Towns because he's being aggressive with Wemby the entire time. Even if Wemby's scoring, even OG Anunoby we haven't talked about yet. Like he is getting in Wemby's chest and being aggressive and driving on him still. Like the fear or the lack of fear that I've seen in all of the Knicks players really in being aggressive and going at Wemby has been really evident in this series.
But that's the thing we talked about in the 2 series ago when they were playing Minnesota, when
Yeah.
the Spurs and Timberwolves series. We were talking about like they were just driving and driving and driving. It was like the whole joke of like, yeah, he might get a block, but like that doesn't mean they're going to get the possession off of it. And like that type of aggression. And then you kind of saw like OKC, there was like a mixture of it. And I feel like New York, especially in the first couple of games, they found like a happy medium there where it's like we're
Yeah.
going to get our threes based off of like how Wemby drops or whatever he does, but we're also going to keep driving because you have to maintain that aggression to keep them honest. And I think the Knicks, for the most part, have done a really good job of that. Looking at last game though, man, it is interesting to think like did the Spurs like have they solved something? Like is there something they can take from game three that continue on for the rest of the series? And I think a part of that would be, I mean, their defense, we can get to that in a second, but like their defense has been good for the most part all series. But like this game especially, there was one possession, I think by the Knicks, it was like a little over 4 minutes. It was in that 4 minute block of the fourth quarter. And there was a possession where they closed out and they rotated so perfectly on this possession of this Knicks offensive possession, where it was every time they swung the ball, there was somebody in their face immediately, and then they try to get it down low. Wemby recovers. Landry Shamet has to kick it to the corner. Swing, swing, swing. There's still a Spurs player at every single one, and it ends up in I think it was a violation or a turnover. And it was just like that type of aggressive defense, if you can rotate perfectly like that with the Knicks, because that's what they want to do. Like the best way to beat an offense like this, especially when you have someone playing a drop, is you just keep swinging the ball around until you get that clean shot. But if they're rotating quickly like this, which they can do with the players that they have, then that puts the Knicks in a lot more difficult spot. And they were turning the ball over. The Knicks were like
Yeah.
weird turnovers in this
Yeah.
game where it was just
Especially
like
to
someone
start
wasn't.
the game.
Yeah, in
Like
the
that,
very
that to
beginning
me
of
was
the
like the
game.
moment where it's like you're fresh off of 2 wins. New York is high for their first playoff, like first finals matchup in forever. Like and it came out and the crowd died down because it's like, oh, it's like the Knicks were struggling early. And
I do
like,
also
yeah, go
maybe
ahead.
wonder if the crowd died down because of the context of the crowd and maybe it being $8,000 to get in.
That also as well. There was a like to me, Game 3 just felt like a lot. Like
And I think
everything.
the Knicks were their own worst enemy at times.
Yes,
The
everything
organization, not even just the
encapsulated,
players.
like all of it together. Like it felt like this, and rightfully, it's difficult, but it's at the same time because it's like New York is like the pinnacle of like, you know, it's like the centerpiece of America, and it's in a lot of senses. And I think because of that, like there's so many eyes on it, regardless.
Yeah.
And when you consider all of this, it makes sense that it's under this spotlight of being this big grand event. At the same time, it felt like it became more of a spectacle than it did a basketball game. And because of that,
Yeah.
I think like all of that weighs down on the players at some point. And I think you could kind of feel that throughout the game, and it was just like, oh, like you felt like it's yes, like, and I would say like when the Knicks started to come back and like that, especially towards the end of that first half, I was like, all right, like there we go, like that's
Yeah.
the best they could do, and then it started back up again in the second half, and I was like, we're right back to where we started the game off.
Well,
But
because
yeah,
like their offense came alive in the second quarter. They scored like the
yeah,
42 points. I think it was 21 points between OG and Brunson themselves, which was basically almost enough to match like what the
yes,
Spurs did that entire quarter. So then it's like when you finally get like, because like you said, it started off slow. It just felt weird. Like the Spurs definitely came out like the more ready team. And then yeah, then when the Knicks woke up in the second quarter and it was like they had like a strong end to the first half, you're like, okay, like this is more of what we're used to with the Knicks this entire playoffs for the most part. And then now we can start getting back into like the game. And then the third quarter comes around, it was like a little bit more back and forth, and then the Spurs take off. And then it was all the weird foul trouble. Like the fouls and the turnovers really screwed over the Knicks
yeah.
in this game. And a lot of it was their fault. Like I know people are going to complain about, especially the coach or Mike Brown are complaining about the refs and how they officiated this game. I do think there's like a couple, obviously like Wemby like full on like shoving
That
Jalen
was
Brunson by the
that was
back of his neck.
insane.
That was crazy. But like besides that, I really thought like the game was officiated like well enough. Like it's been this physical this entire series and really for like most of the playoffs. This is the physicality that we're used to seeing so far this year. And then so when you get a thing where it's Stephon Castle, I think it was right, who ran through Brunson on that one play, and they were like,
So
oh, they had to
yeah,
review it. That was a common foul
it's tough for me because like
because you
I
saw
think
the same thing with Carter Bryant on Shea.
yes. I think like based off of that, like they're keeping it consistent about that type of thing and saying like this happened in the OKC series, like you mentioned, Carter Bryant run through Shea, and it was
And
a
that's all
common
you're
foul
asking for
there.
in the refs is consistency.
But yes, I would say the consistency with that I think carried across. The one other issue I think I would say officiating was it's tough to judge based off of this, but the landing space thing. Because there was one that the Spurs had where it was like I forgot who it is. I want to say Devin Vassell, where they gave Jalen Brunson a flagrant for
Yeah,
the late closeout, and
that
he's blocking his landing space.
yeah, I
And
forget
then
who that
on
was,
the
but
other end, it was I think Stephon Castle who had a similar one for that, and it wasn't upgraded to a flagrant. And it's like it's at the same time because it's like we're slowing it down and watching it in super slow speed. We can see like them landing under the landing space and hitting a foot or something. And it's always like they always try to be like, oh, give them the benefit of the doubt. I still think like at these type of things, it's tough to judge that. It's tough for the refs, and I think at the end of the day, it's like don't give them a decision.
yeah,
Don't put them in a position like this, especially when you consider the atmosphere, how crazy it is to make a call like that. Because it's tough to do that, and I think we constantly would hear that with an away team. But even when you consider the spectacle that the Knicks was last night, like it factors into it a little bit. But it's similar to like I had the same thoughts I had like Game 6 of last series against the Spurs of OKC, in the sense that like I think a lot more went wrong from a New York perspective that like won't happen again than I think San Antonio consistently will be able to do throughout this series. And I will say like their defense has San Antonio's defense has consistently improved, and we've seen it can play at
yeah.
this high level again. I just think when you look at the New York Knicks and how historic their offense has been, I think you were expecting a dud sooner or later. And I think when you have a player like Landry Shamet, who's been so crucial for you this entire playoff run in this entire series so far, to come out and shoot 1 for 7 from three for you, these type of things. I think you have these bad shooting nights from your key players off the bench that you're expecting to kind of take the load. Even a player like Mikal Bridges, who like has been so instrumental for you to come out and play poorly on the offensive end, but still be able to do the defensive duties. Because it felt like for me, especially in that you mentioned that fourth quarter, and like San Antonio's defense, phenomenal. At the same time, I'm looking at like on the San Antonio offense and being like, all right, this is your chance to close it out. Like you can go out there, string a good couple buckets together, and the score just did not change because San Antonio's offense wasn't scoring in the fourth quarter as well.
Which
So I'm
was
like,
like, and
I was like, oh, like we're still here. I kept looking at the score, like nobody scored. Like I was like, this is insane. Like somebody like go do something. Like, and I think like that's the type of thing where it's like moving forward. I think you'll be able to get that more out of the young players of the Spurs than you would these veterans and these offensive, spark plugs that the Knicks have. Like they have a player like Jordan Clarkson who came in and played good for you on the
yeah,
offensive end. Like these type of things, where I was like, he hasn't played much, like and been instrumental for them at all. But when you have a poor shooting night from Mikal Bridges, a poor shooting night from Landry Shamet, they're crucial. These other players are crucial and contributing to your offense. And I think like that to me is what I look at and say like New York should like I don't think you should hit a panic button just yet. Like when you consider how historic this offense has been and how dangerous they can be game to game.
yeah. The New York bench only scored 22 bench points. 10 of those came from Jordan Clarkson. It was cool to see Jordan Clarkson come in and hit a couple threes. He hit a wild shot at one point. Looked like a little bit more of the old six man Jordan Clarkson after he didn't even play a game too. But then it's like, yeah, that was partly because you just weren't getting anything from your other players, especially when they're getting in foul trouble. It felt like the Knicks just never got in a flow. Like it felt like there was a couple moments where it was like, all right, like we got a bit of a run going, and then it would just all kind of like fall apart again. And that I think that just trickled down to their offense entirely, and that's why you get a poor performance from Cat on offense. Why you get a poor performance from Mikal, like you said, he goes 1 of 5. But you had Josh Hart hitting 3, so it's like it's crazy that like a
Yeah.
crazy good offensive game from Josh Hart where he's hitting his threes. OG Anunoby is doing his thing for 28 points, and Jalen Brunson was probably this might have been the most efficient game he had. But like outside of those three, you just weren't really getting much else from anybody else that would actually like ended up mattering. But the free throw discrepancy is also what really helped out the Spurs in this one because I mean, like I said, like this was something they were complaining about the Knicks were after the game, but those part of the reason those free throws came up was because the Knicks got in foul trouble like a little over 9 minutes. They were in the Spurs were in the bonus with like a little over 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the moment that happened, I kind of looked at my roommate. I was like, "Hey, I don't know, man." I was like, being in the bonus this early in a game where you're already kind of in the lead in the fourth quarter, I was like, I don't know. It would have taken some like heroics, which almost happened for the Knicks, but especially thanks to OG Anunoby in the end. But that corner three he hit towards the end on Dylan Harper was
refused to let this
nuts.
game in.
Yeah, which was really cool, and like Brunson too. Like he still also made some plays in the end there. But I mean, this game was just it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, between the physicality of the game, the way the Spurs like the way they adjusted their offense. I want to get into that real quick. The early action that they were doing in this game, because in the first couple of games, I felt like the Knicks or the Spurs were really trying to do a lot of stuff like from the top of the key, right? They were getting into the action late. Everything was kind of like going down low, and it looked like kind of too jumbled and mucked up right there at the top. But then in this game, it was a lot more early action in their half court sets where you're seeing like one of my favorite things. I used to call that all the time when we watched college, when we were calling Temple games. But like that horns action where you normally have two guys who are split and setting screens kind of at the top of the post, they were doing that like early up top, like above the top of the key, basically like 35 feet out with for Castle. And then it would be Wemby gunning behind that. So they're putting these guys in early action. And this, a lot of times it was Cat, who then Cat is like, okay, I have all of this space, basically like 30 feet to the basket for Wemby to operate here now. Yeah. And it's Cat having to either recover and chase down Wemby, who's now running towards the basket, or having to play up top. But then it's Stephon Castle saying, like, whichever you do here, we're going to kill you because now we have all this space to operate. And this, you don't know what the guys who are operating the horns action are going to do. And then it was also the double drag stuff to get them earlier out too, where it was like Wemby was like, I felt like in the first two games, and this is partly part of what you were talking about with like him being so young, it felt like he was playing not within himself. Like he was playing a little bit out of control. And it was like everything was happening too sudden. It was like he was trying to force things and maybe doing like going into the action a little too early, and that they were just kind of weren't able to get their feet right. In this game, one of my main notes on Wemby this game was it felt like he just played calm, in control, and that he let the game come to him. And a lot of that was like on the offense. It was like he wasn't just sprinting to the basket. It was like, okay, we're going to do this double drag or this horns action, and I'm going to work my way to the basket, but I'm not just going to sprint there and give everything away right away. I'm going to kind of like slowly make my way around there and curl around and get there. And but that's how he got those lobs, dunks that we saw a lot in this game for his, he had 32, 8, and 6 in this game, and it was pretty efficient as well. And a lot of that was because of how patient and how they set him up in this game with their offense. So, I mean, shout out to Mitch Johnson and the Spurs in general for making that adjustment and basically letting Wemby kind of control this game. Him and Castle. Castle was fucking awesome this game too, man. It's crazy how much we talk about these young guards.
I think it's like, and I promise I'm not using this another opportunity to glaze Shea. But we constantly talk about like players being able to control their own pace, and I think like it's so expected for them to be able to do that right away. And I think that is what makes a player like Wemby like interesting, because like there's still that room to grow where he's stepping in and being comfortable, being relaxed, and playing to his own rhythm. And then you already see that with certain players, like you mentioned Stephon Castle. I think at times he's still like is very inconsistent with it, but Dylan Harper like is really good at being able to control his own pace, come off the bench and be effective. Yeah. And it's like you're already seeing people be like, well, like what's De'Aaron Fox like? What's the point of De'Aaron Fox like here if you're seeing Dylan Harper play the way he is. But I still think I think you keep Fox around for that veteran presence, and I think you can see why in a Game 3 moment like that, where it's like you need someone to hit a big shot for you, New York, and the atmosphere is right there, looking for a big moment. If he misses that shot, New York comes down, and I think Jalen Brunson, the ball in his hands, the atmosphere and everything, we're having a different conversation here about the Knicks being up 3-0. But for Fox to hit a shot like that, I was like, that's cold-blooded. That
step back at the free throw line was nasty.
On one of the best defenders in the league, I was like, hey, credit to him.
But that's why
you have these veteran players.
That's exactly why you brought in De'Aaron Fox, because he has always been that fourth quarter guy, even with the injuries. And I know he doesn't have the bounce that he always does, but he is still a cold-blooded killer when it comes to the fourth quarter. He may. It's not exactly like Brunson, because I think Brunson is like kind of like up there with like him and Shea are like the clutch guys. But like De'Aaron Fox is one of those guys where it's like, yeah, he might be inefficient, but like he was inefficient this game. But they were still trusting him enough to put the ball in his hands in the end here, because they know he's either going to make the right shot and it's going to go in, or two, he had 9 assists this game. We know he's just going to make the right play in general. And especially when you have guys like Wemby around him, who when that shot was going on, Wemby was above him, but like you could tell like he was getting ready to like dive if he needed to, whether it be for the rebound, the lob, whatever it was. So there were options there, but De'Aaron Fox said like, I got this. And that him and Castle essentially like put the game away. Yeah. I mean, this game was so. Dude, can I tell you my favorite moment in this game? This is gonna sound so stupid.
Okay.
There was a moment in this game where both teams essentially played small. Where it was, and this is almost like an insult to Luke Cornett, but it was like the Spurs had Luke Cornett out there, and the Knicks put OG at the 5. So that was their biggest player, and Luke Cornett, who has been like the poster boy for if he's out there, drive, like drive, drive, drive.
Yeah.
So basically, it just went like the both teams were small in a sense where it was like, hey, no Wemby, Mitch, or Cat are on the floor. So these lanes and these drives are open and available for us. And both teams took full advantage. I remember looking, like watching this game at one point, I was like, holy shit. Like every single possession, both teams was like, they get the ball, they're driving straight to the basket because they're like, while these big dudes aren't out here, we're going to take full advantage. I mean, poor Luke Cornett. But like it was hilarious to watch because it was like a really fun, fast, and free flowing offense that it turned into for both sides. Where it was like both teams were just like, screw it, we're gonna go bucket for bucket. You're gonna rest your big guys, we're gonna rest our big guys, and we're just gonna attack you. And it was one of the most fun moments. I think it only lasted like a minute. It was one of the most fun moments of the series so far because I was like, this is hilarious. Like they both just fully recognized like there's no big guy out here. We're just gonna fuck threes. We're just gonna attack. It was so cool, man. I don't know why, but that was one of my favorite moments. But real quick with the fourth quarter, it was there were 3 total threes made in the fourth quarter. I think it was one from Brunson and OG in the end because up until then I think they were like 0 of 10, like leading into the end of the fourth quarter. The Knicks were like no one could hit shot, but then the Spurs couldn't either. So that's why it literally felt like it was all middies and drives, which was a lot of fun. But like both teams, again, it was 23 for the Spurs and 20 for the Knicks in the fourth quarter. Both teams didn't shoot the ball exactly well. Like field goal percentage wise, they were both good, like pretty much like league average, like what you would expect for that, like 46 and 45%. And they both shot exactly 35% from three, which is, to me, when I read that number after the game, I was like, that actually felt kind of high from what we were seeing. I was like 35%. I was like, I was expecting more around like 32-ish percent, like tops. So, but yeah, it was just the fourth quarter. Everything kind of fell apart for the Knicks. And this is where I think like there should be no one out there being like, oh, are the Knicks in trouble? First of all, I need to see it from the Spurs 2 games in a row against this team. And second of all, the turnovers and the free throws really, really, really did hurt the Knicks. That and them just not being able to hit a 3 in the fourth quarter. And that is kind of the opposite of what we have seen for the Knicks so far in these playoff series. So,
which is that's why I look at this and say like it is crazy that we're already hearing like those conversations about like, oh, Wemby is this Giannis villain from, a couple years ago and he's going to come back and do this. And I'm like, you got a very like unique game from the Knicks, like especially with what we've seen from them the past like 12 games. This is not the Knicks that you started the playoffs with. You're not going to get this 2 games in a row from them. And if you do, it's a credit to the coaching staff of the Spurs adjusting to it and being able to force turnovers and constantly make these issues. But even then, New York isn't going to – you're not going to once again get a Landry Shamet 1 for 7 back-to-back games. Like these type of things I look at and say like you need to like consistently kind of force them out of this. And I think if we're like looking and saying like, if there is a chance that the Spurs are able to win this game and make things this next game and make things interesting, you need to see more from Keldon Johnson. I know like everyone's
okay.
I'm glad. I've been like, all right, what is where is the 6th man of the year? And I'm like, I was like, did I watch enough San Antonio games during the regular season to sit there and justifiably say like he deserved to win? And when we did our end of the season like picks for awards, I said I would rather have gone Tim Hardaway Jr.
And I paid Time.
We both went different directions, and I think I also thought it was corny the way that they tried to go for a push and both Wemby for MVP and then Keldon Johnson for 6th man of the year with the whole like going to the media and everything. But either way,
an OKC player has never campaiged for an award ever.
I'm just saying when they asked Shea like, you want to campaign for him? He's like, I let the game speak for itself, and I was like,
he's going to speak in platitudes.
Yeah, that's my MVP there. But 2-time MVP, my fault. 2-time MVP, Finals MVP, 2025 NBA champion. Either way, I look at this
shameless.
I look at this and say like, you need to see more from Keldon Johnson. Like he has to be this player for you that can come off the bench and completely change games for you. And we have not seen that this entire playoffs, but let alone like in the finals. Like this is the time to step up and do this and be that guy for them, be that difference maker. And I'm looking at him like, all right, like here he comes on, and he has a best game this series, and it's 7 points off the bench for you. Like, and I was like, this is all we're getting. And I just, very bottom line, you just need more from him. I keep looking at this and saying, well, like he could do this, he could do this. Like, just go out there and be more effective. Like it's very
maybe don't push Mitchell Robinson in the back into your guy who's hitting a three at this very moment, and then like completely turning that over. Like that was a three that you erased from Wemby because you decided to push Mitchell Robinson in the back for whatever damn reason. First of all, Mitchell Robinson has never been afraid to jump at a shooter. Like that, he loves doing that. So first of all, let Mitchell Robinson in that situation be Mitchell Robinson at the top of the key, by the way. Like let him do that. And either way, like, and also trust Wemby. No one is contesting Wemby's jump shot. Like that's just not gonna happen. You didn't need to do that. But it's stuff like that, and then you're right, the lack of offense. The bench can't just be we hope Dylan Harper pops off for 15 plus or whatever we need him to do and gets these rebounds. Luke Cornett survive basically when you're out there. Carter Bryant is out there for defense and physicality. And then it's just like Keldon Johnson, we kind of need you to have some kind of scoring output to help us here, because otherwise it is like where else are you getting the offense from? Especially if Champagnie and Vassell aren't like knocking down these threes, which they both hit like I think they both hit three this game. So like that's good, but like that's what they're there for. Keldon Johnson needs to be the guy who can be physical and like continue to like get these drives going and be like the sixth man of the year like that we saw. Like you won that award for a reason. But Dylan Harper has looked like the best guy off of your bench all postseason and really kind of regular season if we really think about it. But it's just you're completely right. And I was going to bring this up too. I was like, you need like I'm not going to sit here and say Keldon Johnson is exactly playing bad basketball. You just need more from him. Like you just need more from him.
And especially like looking very basically at the stats. Like you can sit here and say, all right, regular season what did he average? Around like 14 points a game. Or I was to end April, he averaged 14 points per game. Conference or the first round, he averages 6 points per game. Conference semifinals, 9 points per game. Conference finals, around 10 points per game. And then NBA finals, less than 5 points a game. Yeah. Like, this is the time where you need that veteran presence. So it's just crazy to say because he's one of the longest tenured players for the Spurs. Like, and he's not really that, like, old.
It's like, it's him and
I think Harrison Barnes still even being there for a while. But either way, like he's that guy that can maybe Devin Vassell as well. Just off another like later.
Vassell, Champagnie, and Keldon are probably the three longest ones there. At this point. Yeah.
You need that veteran presence to step up for you and contribute, especially on the offensive end. And I think that's where I'll criticize him more because, like you said, the defense, like he's doing decently on the defensive end for you and not being a liability in that sense. Yeah. But it's just like you need more from him on the defensive end, and you could say that at all times. Like the effort needs to constantly be there. Even if you're not like contributing on the defensive end, I need to see the offensive output that we saw from you on the regular season, and we haven't seen that yet.
No. All right. Well, what do you think? Moving on past this game now, going into Game 4, which is tomorrow on Wednesday. What are the adjustments, like the big things that you think both teams need to do? Like, is it just more of the same for the Spurs, or like what do you think are the counters that both of these teams need to work on?
Yeah, very easily for me for the Knicks. Play through Cat. Like
thank you.
We said this, and I was like, they got away from it in Game 3, and it's why we saw them struggle a bit more. And I think going through Cat operates your entire offense for you, and I think we just very simply need to see more of it. And then San Antonio, in the similar vein that Cat is important for them, Wemby is so important in dictating their entire offense. Even if he's not scoring and he's being aggressive, his shots aren't falling, but he's being aggressive. He is constantly a threat on the offensive end. And you need him to be aggressive and pull those shots from deep, get to the rim and be aggressive. Whenever, and they constantly mention this during the broadcast, whenever Wemby is around the paint, he is a threat because it's either lob option for you or put back option or just being his presence in there, like he is going to dictate and draw defenders his way. So you have to constantly keep an eye on that. And because of that, I think the Spurs should, and they've done a much better job with that in Game 3 of getting Wemby in different actions. And you mentioned it, like whether it's starting him early off and getting different actions to start at the top of the key, or saying get in the paint right away and be there and be a presence and moving him around. Like I think that's doing his work. Most important thing.
He was doing his work early a lot in this game, like getting to a spot and like unfortunately a lot of times against a guy like Shamet or like a smaller guy like that. Like everyone's smaller to him, but like when you get like a guard or something like that on him down low and he's able to do his work early, get him the damn ball.
Yeah. And that's what I
Uh,
look at and say you need. I think you need to see more of and doing different action with him because it's funny to say that like he's played a lot less than what we saw from the OKC series. Like it's funny that like I'm seeing extended minutes of like Luke Cornett out there where I'm like, damn, like Wimby during OKC series was out like 2 minutes and say, all right, get back in. We need you. Like this is
oh, he was
we
getting
need you
killed
out
that
there.
game. Yeah.
And I think like if they're going to do this, where Wimby is getting these extended breaks, you need to use him more. You need to utilize him a lot more when he's on the court to be effective.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially with the Knicks point, like that was gonna be my only thing too. I was like, I don't understand why they went away from playing through Cat. Like, I don't know if that was maybe Mike Brown just trying to like outthink them too much, just being like, okay, now we'll switch it up here. It's like
Yeah.
just keep going. Like it's working. It's worked for literally a month and a half, 46 days straight without losing. Like just keep doing it until the Spurs show that they can stop it. Because in this case, it feels like they just kind of like overthought things. They got too caught up in the moment. There was so much going on with the Knicks organization and the city in general. I just felt like everything was just it was a lot. It was a lot for New York, and then it just kind of felt like it all fell apart, like especially in the second half for them. But they were still in this game. This is my thing with the Knicks. Like the biggest thing for the go back to playing through Cat, cut down on the turnovers again. You're still winning the board battles. You had like twice as many O boards in this game. Josh Hart is gonna fly in and sacrifice his limbs for every single rebound that he can. Mitch Robb and Karl Anthony Towns have both been rebounding pretty well in this, and you're getting contributions from other guys. So to me, it is just like the Knicks just need to go back to the. This sounds stupid, but like they just kind of need to go back to the way they were playing, and then on defense, it's just more of play more aggressive, face guard, call out your switches, and don't allow yourselves to get taken out of a play before it even really starts, based off of the action that the Spurs are doing.
I think the final thing I'll add for the Knicks side of this, and I think it's like I love that Jalen Brunson is aggressive. I think to some degree I don't want him taking so many shots, and that's the one thing I'll add is that I think like there's times where I feel like he's forcing it because he's had 31 shots in game one, 25 shots in game two, and 25 shots in game three, and I'm like I think at times like there should be better looks that you should be trying to get, especially and I think it starts with once again getting the ball in Cat's hands and letting him dictate the offense a little bit more. And because of that, I'm looking and saying, like, I don't think you need Jalen Brunson to go out there. And yes, I know you would love for him to take 20 shots a game for you, but I think you don't really need to do that consistently. It should be like like, all right, we need the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands. Like, to me, it's like you get in that fourth quarter, I don't care how many shots you take. Like, you be that guy that we expect you to be. I think before that, though, they should be trying to just, like, look for good looks. And I think it starts with Jalen Brunson not taking so many shots then.
Hey, put the alert up because I completely disagree with you. I completely disagree with you. I think Jalen Brunson needs to keep taking these shots. In fact, 25 a game, fuck that. He does need to be taking like 30 shots a game. And maybe this is like the old heads influencing me too much with like old school, like the way I saw basketball when like Kobe and all them. But no, fuck that. It's the finals. He's your best player. And I know that the shot diet might be weird, and then you're just gonna look at his numbers going to fourth quarters all these times. I don't care. I need him to be as warmed up and as ready to go as possible in the fourth quarter for all of these games. And one of these games, they're just gonna hit. Like, and I know, like it sounds bad, but like they've been consistently winning with Jalen Brunson playing this way. It's just every once in a while, like you could, if we look back on this series afterwards, right? If the Knicks go on and win in five, we're just gonna look at that first game in New York as just like a blip, like as like a weird moment in history of basketball because of everything that was happening around it and everything in the game itself. Like from everything on the court to off the court with this game, it just felt weird. And if the Knicks win in five, that is exactly how we're just gonna look at the game. Like, oh, this was just like an off, like whatever game. But so like I don't know, for me, and then I don't even know if I have like an exact like logic behind this, but like my feeling is I want Jalen Brunson to keep taking those shots. Like screw it, like why not? Like I want him to take 30 shots a game. Everyone else can chip in wherever they do.
I just think when you have so many offensive weapons like the Knicks do, I think you should be trying to cycle it around a bit more. Because Jalen Brunson's constantly going to have the threat of being that guy that can get low and be physical. I think we've seen it, whether it's on Dylan Harper or De'Aaron Fox, where it's like, and they always constantly like make fun of him for his body and him not being a skinnier guard and he's just bigger.
Big body
because I've seen it a
Brunson.
couple of times where he's just straight bodying like Dylan Harper, like literally backing him down and then getting a nice high. He had one last night where it was like a real high arching shot, like right over Wemby. And I was like, that's an insane, rainbow shot, like off the glass. But it's like, hey, if it goes in and you're getting that, like, I think that to me, those are the good looks that I like to see him take. There's
Yeah.
other times where I'm seeing him come down and maybe play a bit too fast and trying to, to do too much. And I think that's where I think they should have slowed it down, especially considering the shots aren't consistent. You talked about the rhythm, and I think he dictates a lot of that. And I think for me, that was a big reason why I looked at this and say, like, I don't think the Knicks are in rhythm because of him trying to be too aggressive early on and not, trying to look for a good shot. And I think that to me is where I'll say, like, I look at this and say, I think you need Jalen Brunson to take a tiny bit of a step back and not taking and forcing so many shots. Maybe that means like if he's feeling a green light, he's open. I don't care. But like I think the contested shots need to cut down a little bit, and those opportunities should be used to get more players in rhythm, like Mikal Bridges early on, so that he feels a lot more comfortable going down the stretch.
Yeah, and it might also help that off of your bench there was 13 total threes taken, and I think Shamit took 7 of those and made one.
Yeah,
Like
1%.
that doesn't help out either. So to me, it's like, hey, maybe Shamit takes a few less shots. You give a few more to like Cat and Mikal, and Josh Hart probably takes a few less shots, and it can all balance out a lot more. It just depends on the flow of the game, like you said, and maybe that's where you're right. Like it's not that he needs to take less shots; it's just better shots, and they need to be more patient with how they get to those shots. And I think part of that was like with what we said, where we did agree on this, is that like you play through Cat, and that can open up these better shots for everybody else. I think Cat can still be aggressive when he needs to be, but it's getting everyone else involved. Because I don't think it was a coincidence that the game that they go away from using Cat as your main guy to run everything, that Mikal happens to have his worst offensive game that we've seen since they started doing that. Like, if you think back during the Atlanta series, the first round, right? It was Mikal Bridges, like everyone was ready to like ship him out, saying this is bullshit. We traded all these picks for you. You're doing nothing for us. Those first 2 games of the series, and then since then he's been amazing for them, like really, really good on both ends of the floor. And then this game where they go again away from using Cat, Mikal has a dud of a game on offense. I don't think that's a coincidence. So
Yeah.
I think if you go back to that and you get more in the flow of what has been working for you in these playoffs, the shot balance and the diet and all that will work out more, and you'll be less worried about Jalen Brunson missing shots and more worried about him making the shots in the end when it's close.
That's fair.
All right. It is nice. It doesn't happen a lot, but it is kind of fun when we disagree on something.
I mean, we disagree, but like it all goes back to like Cat just needs to run this offense because you then get less Jalen Brunson shots. Like it to me, it all makes
less
sense.
bad Jalen Brunson shots.
Yeah, less bad Jalen Brunson shots. You still want him to take the bad shots. From
I don't care.
Go out there,
Like,
and just, whatever you think is a good shot is a good shot. I trust you. You
what's
got
the saying? I'll take 40 shots. I'd rather take 40 shots and make 2 than like take 5 and
Fair
miss,
enough.
and like only make 1. Like screw it. Keep shooting. Like he is your best player. Like he is the king of New York at this very moment. So screw it. Let the king of New York be the king of New York. All right. Anything else we need to talk about with this series or the NBA in general?
No, nope.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. This is, well, I always want to say like it's a shorter episode, but we turned like 3 games into almost an hour long show. But thank you everybody for watching and listening as usual. We'll be back with some more content soon. We'll definitely be going back to talking about the W here as we do a little bit of an early season recap. And then of course, with the final series continuing tomorrow, we'll be back with either, I don't know, is this going to be a recap on the series end, or if we get back to talk about more games. Obviously my hope is that this game goes to at least 6, and then we look good, and then all that. But for real, thank everybody for watching and listening. We'll be back with more basketball content soon, and football on the horizon, of course. Always some drama going on there, so we'll be sure to talk about that sometime soon. But really appreciate everybody, and we'll see you again soon.